keys to his own execution. This isn't just about some missed phone call or a typical soap opera misunderstanding. We are watching a massive shift in the power dynamics of Port Charles that could leave Jocelyn Jacques as nothing more than a memory. But before we assume the worst about what's hidden in the shadows of Windermere, we really have to ask ourselves something. Was Pascal's betrayal a real choice? Or was he just a desperate man who realized he was already a ghost in his boss's eyes? We've seen plenty of villains come and go in Port Charles, right? But Jens Sidwell was supposed to be different. He was the guy with the master plan. He was the one holding Sunny and Laura in a vice grip with those blackmail photos. But the funny thing is, the sources show us a totally different side of him now. Sidwell's biggest weakness isn't that he's run out of guns or money. It's actually his devastating, soul-crushing grief over the murder of his son, Marco Rios. That obsession has made him uncharacteristically careless. It's like he's lost his compass. Don't you think it's wild how one loss can turn a strategist into a loose cannon? Now, let's break down why this is happening. In the world of high-stakes crime, emotions are usually considered a liability. You can't be a kingpin and a mourner at the same time. But Sidwell has stopped looking at the logic of his business. He's just looking for a scapegoat. This grief has caused him to let his guard down completely. And that is exactly the opening Sunny and Laura have been waiting for. Honestly, I think Sidwell is feeling a huge sense of failure internally. In his world, your job is to protect your family. He couldn't protect his own son. That kind of guilt doesn't just go away. It rots you from the inside out. It makes you impulsive. Every time he looks around Windermere, he probably thinks he sees his son's killer. That blindness is what Sunny is banking on. What do you think? Is a grieving villain more dangerous because he has nothing to lose? Or is he just easier to trip up? From a psychological perspective, we are seeing the ego death of a tyrant here. Sidwell's whole identity was tied to his control over his legacy. Without Marco, that legacy is cut off. He is desperately trying to grab back that control by being a bully to his captives. He's being especially cruel to Jocelyn because if he couldn't save his son, he wants to at least be the one who decides who else gets to live or die. Personally, I think this makes him the scariest version of himself. He isn't looking for a payout anymore. He's looking for enough blood to fill the hole Marco left behind. It's a classic tragic arc, but it puts all our favorite characters in the line of fire. And then there's Pascal Levesque. We have to talk about the man of the hour. For months, Pascal has been that hovering creep in the background. He was the faithful lackey who cleaned up the mess for Sidwell. But the sources show that even the most loyal person will flip when they realize they're being sent to the slaughterhouse. Pascal's sudden turn wasn't because he grew a conscience overnight.
It was pure survival instinct.
And you know who triggered it? Jocelyn Jacques. In a total genius move of psychological warfare, Jocelyn planted a seed in Pascal's head. She told him that Sidwell would eventually eliminate him because he knows too much. She basically held up a mirror to his life and showed him that to Sidwell, he's just a loose end. Think about Pascal for a second. He's lived his life in this gilded cage. He thought the bars were there to keep him safe from the world. But Jocelyn made him realize those bars were actually there to keep him ready for the butcher. When Sunny caught him trying to sneak out of Port Charles at the airfield, the reality of his situation finally hit him. He isn't some suave Eurotrash fixer anymore. He's a man running for his life. I find it so interesting that it took a girl in her 20s like Jocelyn to break a seasoned guy like Pascal. It just proves that the truth is often the most effective weapon in Port Charles. Pascal wasn't just scared of Sunny's threats. He was terrified of the silence he knew would follow once Sidwell was finished with him. Do you feel like Pascal is getting what he deserves, or do you actually pity the guy? He's clearly going through a massive identity crisis. For years, his whole life was defined by serving Sidwell and his secret attraction to Marco Rios. With Marco dead and Sidwell hunting him like an animal, Pascal has no home and no purpose. Giving up that safe combination wasn't just a way to save his neck. It was his way of burning down the house that rejected him. It was a final screw you to the boss who turned on him. Now, we get to the dark stuff, the safe at Windermere. This is where the story gets really intense. The sources say that Pascal finally gave up the goods and told Lucas the combination. But what is actually in that box? We know the blackmail photos are in there. Those are the photos Sidwell has been using to keep Sunny and Laura paralyzed. But with all this talk about locating remains, things are getting really creepy. Why is Lucas Jones the one going into the lion's den? Sunny and Laura know they can't just storm Windermere. That would be a bloodbath. They need a Trojan horse. And Lucas, who has been living right there under Sidwell's nose, is the only one who can walk those halls without everyone reaching for a gun. Can you imagine the terror Lucas must be feeling right now? He's not a mobster. He's a doctor. He's stepping into a gothic house of horrors to find photos that could save his family. But he's also walking into a trap. Sidwell already thinks Lucas is the one who killed Marco. This is a total suicide mission. His courage only comes from a desperate need to fix the mess his connection to Marco created. Windermere has always been a character in itself, don't you think? It's this fortress of secrets. By putting the proof there, the show is going back to its classic roots of high-stakes drama. The safe isn't just a piece of furniture. It's the heart of Sidwell's power. Once it's cracked open, the illusion that he's invincible dies with it. I'll be honest with you. I think Sunny is playing a really dangerous game with Lucas's life. Using a civilian for a job that even his top hitmen are scared of feels like the old Sunny. It's cold and calculating. He's too willing to sacrifice people for the greater good. If Lucas doesn't make it out of there, that blood is going to be on Sunny's hands just as much as Sidwell's. Do you agree with Sunny's tactics here, or has he gone too far this time?
We have to talk about Jocelyn.
The rumors about locating her remains sound like a total death sentence. But if you look at the actual recaps, Jocelyn is very much alive. She's being held in an underground prison beneath Windermere. It's this forgotten cellar from the Cassadine era. Why hasn't Sidwell killed her yet? Well, the sources say it's only because Cassius Faison stepped in. Cassius convinced Sidwell that Jocelyn is still a valuable asset. This tells us that even in his blind rage, Sidwell can still be talked into keeping someone alive if they're useful. But how long does that value really last? What happens the second that safe is opened? Jocelyn leaving a calling card. That ring she dropped is such a pro move. It completely changes her from a victim into an operative. She isn't just sitting there waiting to be saved. She is actively marking the trail for the rescue team. Psychologically, she is refusing to be erased by the darkness of that cell. She's in high-functioning survival mode. She's the one who rattled Pascal by calling him disposable. She's the one who messed with the lights to cause a power outage. This isn't just plucky girl energy. This is a woman who grew up around the Corinthos organization. She knows exactly how to find the crack in someone's armor. Honestly, I think Jocelyn is the strongest person in this whole story. While the adults are arguing in offices, she's literally fighting for her life in a dungeon. If she does leave remains, I bet it'll be the remains of Sidwell's empire, because she is doing the most damage from the inside. While all this life and death drama is going down at the castle, the rest of Port Charles is dealing with its own psychological mess. The sources show a close encounter between Willow and Chase that Michael and Jacinda are basically weaponizing. Why is Michael doing this? It's pure revenge. He wants to blow the whole thing up, so he can get full custody of their kids. He's using Willow's savior complex against her. He knows she can't say no to a man who needs help, especially a guy as heroic as Chase. Willow is probably feeling a mix of real concern and some dangerous nostalgia. When she offered Chase that job as her chief of staff, she was trying to fix his life. Her own life is such a disaster of secrets and lies, so she wants to feel like she's helping someone else. But on the other side, Brooklyn is feeling the walls close in. She can tell that her marriage, which felt so solid, is actually a sinkhole. And then there's Tracy Quartermain. She's acting like the guardian of the family legacy. Her assumption that Chase is cheating isn't just about Brooklyn. It's about Quartermain pride. She sees Willow as a manipulator, and she is reacting with the same fire she's used to protect Yelku for decades. Do you think Michael has officially become a villain? This level of manipulation, setting up his own wife to cross the line just so he can have leverage, is cold. It's calculated. It's a side of Michael that makes me wonder if he's the one we should really be worried about once Sidwell is out of the picture. Is he becoming just like his father? Or is he even worse because he pretends to be the good guy? As we get closer to the end of this arc, the tension is just breaking. Sunny and Laura have a plan. Pascal has spilled the beans. Lucas is on the move. But things are about to get a lot worse before they get better. Jen Sidwell is on high alert. He knows Pascal ran away. He knows there was a power outage. He's sitting in that castle like a spider waiting for a vibration on the web. If he catches Lucas with his hand on that safe, it won't be about blackmail anymore. It'll be an execution. And don't forget the Z mystery. Jack Brennan wants Valentine to reach out to this contact named Z. Valentine is absolutely fuming because he knows that contacting Z could lead to his own arrest. This adds a whole other layer of conflict. Will Valentine sacrifice his own freedom to save Jocelyn? It's a classic Cassadine dilemma. I predict that the safe doesn't just have photos in it. I think it has the truth about who actually killed Marco Rios. If Pascal was telling the truth about being innocent, and Lucas is being framed, the real killer, maybe Ross Cullum, is still out there. The consequences of that safe opening are going to change everything for the WSB and the Port Charles underworld. The idea of Jocelyn's remains is probably just a terrifying distraction. While she's alive for now, that ring she left is a race against the clock. If Sunny and Lucas don't get to her before Sidwell decides she's useless, those underground rooms are going to become her tomb. Pascal's exit is the end of an era for Sidwell's business, but it also takes away the last buffer. With the creepy butler gone, there's no one left to stop Sidwell's rage from hitting our favorites directly. Wait, we haven't even talked about the Ethan Lovett bombshell yet. Did you see that coming? Ethan actually admitted to Alexis that he's the father of baby Phoebe. He was involved with Delilah, she got pregnant, and he just wasn't ready to be a dad. When he finally came back, Delilah was dead, and the baby was being adopted by Brooklyn and Chase. He's actually going to give up his parental rights so the baby can have a stable life. That is such a heavy, emotional twist. It adds so much more weight to the Brooklyn and Chase story. They think they're just adopting a baby in need, but they're actually raising a child with deep ties to the Port Charles canvas. How is this going to affect their marriage when the truth inevitably comes out? And then there's the whole toxicology report drama. Dante is trying to find Rocco and Britt, and he finds a syringe in Britt's room. He thinks she might be managing her Huntington symptoms. But the stakes are so high because if they involve the FBI, it might tip off Ross Cullum. Dante is caught between being a cop and being a father. He's desperate to find his son, but every move he makes could put a target on Rocco's back. It's a mess, isn't it? The funny thing about Port Charles is that the truth usually comes out in the most dramatic way possible. Whether it's a safe being cracked, a toxicology report being read, or a surprise confession in a law office, the secrets are all starting to leak. Sunny thinks he's the hero, but he's putting civilian lives on the line. Willow thinks she's a savior, but she's falling right into Michael's trap. And Sidwell? He thinks he's a king, but he's just a grieving father who has lost his way. I've been thinking about the psychological side of all this. Take Chase, for example. He has white knight syndrome. He can't help but want to save people. Willow knows that.
Michael knows that.
They are playing him like a fiddle. And Willow, she has a messiah complex. She thinks she can fix everyone's problems while her own life is on fire. It's a recipe for disaster. When you put all these people in a room together, someone is going to get burned. What about the Varley situation? Nina finding out that Carly and Valentine are an item is just the icing on the cake. Nina is already feeling isolated because Willow is keeping secrets from her. Finding out her rival is dating her ex. That's going to push Nina over the edge. She already refused to drug Jack Brennan again. She's starting to reclaim her own power, and a woman like Nina with nothing left to lose is just as dangerous as Jen Sidwell. So, here's the big question. Do you think Sunny is being too reckless by sending Lucas into Windmere? I mean, Lucas is a doctor, not a spy. And if Valentine has to choose between his freedom and saving Jocelyn, what do you think he'll do? A Cassadine usually chooses themselves, but Valentine has changed a lot over the years. This might be his ultimate test. The Z mystery is another thing that's keeping me up at night. Who could it be? Is it a returning character? Someone new? Whoever they are, Brennan is convinced they can take down both Cullum and Sidwell. That sounds like a lot of power for one person to have. It feels like the WSB is playing a much bigger game than Sunny or Laura even realize. And we can't forget about the Quartermaines. Tracy is on the warpath. She's not going to let anyone mess with Brooklyn's happiness. If she has to destroy Willow to save her granddaughter's marriage, she'll do it without blinking. Tracy has always been the spine of that family, and right now, she's the only one who sees the danger Willow represents. It's wild to think that all of this, the kidnappings, the blackmail, the custody wars, it all comes back to these deep-seated emotional wounds. Sidwell is grieving a son. Sonny is trying to protect his family. Lucas is trying to find justice for the man he loved. Everyone is acting out of pain, and that is what makes this story so compelling. It's not just about good versus evil. It's about what happens when people are pushed to their breaking point. I honestly believe the next few weeks are going to be some of the biggest in GH history. The safe at Windmere is going to open, and whatever is inside is going to change the show forever. Whether it's the blackmail photos or the truth about Marco's killer, the fallout is going to be massive. Are you ready for it? Because I don't think anyone in Port Charles is. Think about the irony of the safe combination. Pascal, the man who was supposed to be the gatekeeper, is the one who gave it up. He was the one person Sidwell trusted, and he's the one who handed over the keys to the kingdom. It just goes to show that you can't buy loyalty, at least not forever. Eventually, everyone looks out for themselves. And Jocelyn? She's the wild card. Everyone thinks she's a victim, but she's the one who broke Pascal. She's the one who's leaving a trail. She's the one who's actually winning this war. If she makes it out of that dungeon, Sidwell better start running because she's going to come for him with everything she has. She has her mother's fire and her father's determination. That is a dangerous combination. So, let's look at the predictions. I think Lucas gets the safe open, but Sidwell catches him. I think Sunny has to make a choice between the photos and Lucas's life. And I think the Z mystery is going to lead to a shocking return that no one sees coming. The remains of the story are going to be the pieces of these families that they have to pick up once the dust finally settles. Okay, now I'm really done. Thanks for being such a great audience. I love our GH talks, and I can't wait for the next one. Until then, keep watching and keep theorizing. Port Charles needs us. The safe combination is the most important thing in Port Charles right now. And Lucas is the only one who has it. The pressure on him must be immense. I hope he makes